Good. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. I'm going to put my beverage away. My name is Oliver Ox, and welcome to the Doing Better Show, specifically our Sunday Sanity Check. Very excited to be here. Just me and Engineer Des here for today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about in the 7 o'clock hour. Then at the 8 o'clock hour, we'll transition to our interview portion of the Doing Better Show. And we have a great interview today. Catherine Tarnowski from Northeast Therapy and Service Dogs. She trains service dogs, her and her husband, and they do it with Catherine is a social worker, so she really understands that side of things. So this isn't just like let's slap a service dog tag on any animal we want to bring on the plane. It's how do we actually have animals that are helpful in service. So I'm really excited for that. But today we got lots and lots to talk about this week. If ever we needed a Sunday sanity check, it's today. Unfortunately, I'll forewarn you, it's going to be a sweaty Sunday sanity check because it's about 90 degrees here at the Doing Better Studios. And yeah, it is what it is. I can already see the glaze starting to glaze on me. All right, so what are we going to talk about this week? Some follow-up stories from some previous weeks. As you guys know, I am all over this private equity thing that we got going on. I got a couple more insights on some private equity stuff for you guys. Then the R. Kelly story from this week we're going to get into. Engineer Des did a little extra research on that, so we're going to talk about R. Kelly. Are there connections to the Diddy stuff, which means are there connections to intelligence and military-industrial complex and all that stuff? So really interesting stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit. Then we're getting to Palantir. I think that is the one name that every American should have right on the tip of their tongue, and we're going to talk a lot about that. As much as everything else that's going on is very serious, we do not want to be distracted from Palantir. So let's keep an eye on that as well. Then we're going to talk a little bit. I want to make one point about immigration. I don't have a ton of new news this week other than following up on something, but I do want to make a point to sort of, I think, elevate the discussion. Then our big story for the week is Israel and Iran. We're currently at war, so we need to talk about that. This has huge implications, and I think what happened yesterday spells the end of MAGA. I think MAGA's done. So we'll get to all of that today on the Doing Better Show and the Sunday Sanity Check. So to start, we're going to do a quick follow-up. We talked a little bit last week on about China buying some major resources about water in Nashua and a Chinese company. And again, we say China. These are Chinese companies and individuals. I don't think there's any Chinese government involvement in this. But of buying up water and then a toll highway. I wanted to share this little nugget here because it relates to the toll highway thing. And the concept here is that we have these public goods that are being traded or sold to private companies. So public goods like roadways. And again, with a roadway, this is a tricky thing to have for capitalism to efficiently regulate. Remember, I'm no socialist, certainly at the highest levels. But we need to have some discussions about the way we're letting our public goods be dominated by private companies. So here's a great story out of Canada. I know this. I was in Canada the end of last year. End of last year, and I had I had some experience with this exact highway they're talking about here. So let's see this guy's take on what's going on with the 407 in Canada. Ja?
Wondered why the 407 is so expensive? A one-way trip from end to end costs around $100. Well, similar trips on U.S. toll roads cost just a few dollars. Well, the 407 just released their financials on CDAR, and get this, they're probably the most profitable company in Canada. They generate nearly $1.5 billion in EBITDA, which translates to operating income margins of over 80%. Find me any company in Canada that produces that kind of cash flow at such margins. The wild part? In 1999, the province sold the 407 on a 99-year lease to a group of investors for $3.1 billion. Why did Ontario sell it? Because completing the project would have cost around $1.5 billion, the same amount the 407 now generates annually.
So I'm not going to let him go through his whole thing there, but again, the province of Ontario started creating this toll road. They built a toll road, and rather than finishing it, they sold it off to a private company who finished it and now makes ridiculous profits on this. So I am no idealist when it comes to economics. I think that capitalism, that is free market, the people doing what they want to generate wealth, is a great system in many ways. I think there are many problems that capitalism cannot solve. Specifically when we're talking about things that require mass coordination. So this company that bought this highway would have had a real tough time building it in the first place. But government, with government power, was able to build a highway. This is not something that you're not going to build 4 highways there, have 4 different companies build highways, and then compete for to who's the best highway and that one wins. That's what capitalism depends on. Anything that capitalism can efficiently manage, like if you want to open up a burger shack, right? Capitalism does a pretty good job of bringing us the best burger shacks because anyone can open a burger shack. You don't need a large government involvement to have you open up a burger shack. You don't need to dominate resources to open up a burger shack. So capitalism is great for things like that, for large portions of technology. If you look at the way in which our personal electronic devices have developed over the years, that happened in a free market. No government could have coordinated the acceleration in technology that we've seen over the last 40 years. Government would have not done that efficiently. However, things like building highways are a totally different thing. And it's really important that we're able to, instead of having these ideological, like capitalism is the devil and it's exploitative and da-da-da-da-da, versus like communists are all evil and stupid and don't understand economics. We need to stop having those type of discussions and have thoughtful, meaningful discussions about what systems best serve people. And I think the government of Ontario selling a highway to a private company has not best served people. They've kept the prices very, very high, and they don't care either way. If they have 1 million people using it a day at $5 a pop, or 5 million people using it a day at $1 a pop, right? They don't really care either way. At the end of the day, they get money, but 5 million people using it is more wear and tear. Their interest is not in providing a public good, and highways, like it or not, are a public good. So I just wanted to bring that back. This is not just an issue of foreign governments, foreign companies, foreign individuals buying up these public goods. The problem is that people are buying up these public goods for private profit. Next thing I want to touch on, we talked a little bit about local news and the importance of it last week, and I will always talk about it. This guy made a great point about it, and I would like to listen to what he has to say.
This isn't just a story about a police raid. It's a reminder that local journalists can have a direct role in stopping corruption. Cops ransacked a local paper and a journalist's home. The very next day, his 98-year-old mother, the publisher of the newspaper, died. Why did the cops do this, and who was behind it? A TV reporter in Kansas City sees the story. Her name is Jessica McMaster. She grabs her camera, her toothbrush, heads a couple hours into Kansas to find out. She discovers a small town full of secrets, rumors, honestly Bravo-level drama. A local restaurant owner, her ex best friend, even the kid who mows their lawn, everyone's tangled up in this mess. The TV reporter finally gets the restaurant owner to speak up. The police chief got her to file a complaint against the newspaper. Then he told her to delete their text messages because of a smile emoji. Was he just worried about a flirty text, or was there something bigger? Turns out the newspaper was investigating the police chief. His past, allegations of lewd comments, harassment, running over a dead body. Jessica uncovered the truth and brought this police chief down. There's a study that came out showing that places where local newspapers vanished have seen a 7% increase in corruption charges.
So that's all I need to hear. The places that don't have local newspapers have more corruption. This is obvious. This is the job of journalism. And we've forgotten it in these last 30 years with this hyper-divisive cable news, MSNBC versus Fox, and news has become much more about propaganda and shaping public opinion than it has about keeping the government accountable. But that's the job of the news. And here's the thing. We have less funding and focus on local news maybe than ever in my lifetime, but we don't need it because every single one of you out there is a journalist. You all got a phone. You can all research, you can record, etc., etc. We can all go out there and be journalists. You can go start your news on your TikTok or your Instagram or your fill in the blank, Substack, whatever. It doesn't take any large news organization. CNN doesn't need to break the story for it to matter. You can break the story and make it matter. We can all do this. If we don't all do this, we will be abused. That's what happens. That's what happens when there's no balance of power. Any unbalanced power always leads to tyranny, always leads to abuse. It's our job as citizens to get out there and be that countervailing force. Okay. Next thing I wanted to talk about. So we have one lovely nugget of information that was something that I want to follow up on. We got another follow-up story. Des, give me my screen, please. U.S. judge orders release of pro-Palestinian advocate Mahmoud Khalil. This was one of the first people who was caught up in these ICE, kidnappings is the word I would use because they're not legal. He had his green card canceled by Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, who is a neocon who I have never had much respect for, and was kind of a red flag when he was put in by the Trump administration. Judges, one after another, have rebuked the Trump administration's ICE actions. And we're going to talk a little bit about this later, about the way in which ICE has violated the U.S. Constitution, violated due process in order to deport people. Now, this is a separate issue for whether or not people should be deported, and like I said, we'll talk about it. But I just wanted to follow up on that. For now, congratulations to Mahmoud Khalil and his family, and everyone who stands up for freedom of speech, because that's what this was. This was a freedom of speech issue. All right, private equity. Let me go right into these. I got a couple of videos here that I think are so good. And this, again, people standing up to private equity with independent journalism like this is what's going to, I don't know if it's going to ward off the next financial collapse, but hopefully it'll help us keep those responsible accountable for their crimes. Let's call it what it is. Des, you want to give me my screen here? So I got two quick videos.
For something like $6 billion, and $5.2 billion of that was loans, and only Toys R Us itself was responsible for paying that debt back. And Toys R Us had always been a very fiscally conservative company. They did not have a lot of debt ever. Now all of a sudden...
Let me actually quickly before we get into this, for those of you who don't know, what is private equity? Private equity are these large corporations or financial apparatuses, these big companies that go around, they have a bunch of money available to them, theoretically, and what they do is they buy up companies and make them more profitable and then usually sell them off. Many people work currently for companies that are owned by private equity and may not be super excited about that fact. But private equity's theoretical role would be to make a company more efficient, therefore making them more profitable and then selling them off. That's like the best case scenario. However, the devil is always in the details. And the way in which private equity are funded to make these purchases, and then the way in which they make their money, again, we need to, capitalism, the making of money is not the same as an efficient system. And when the rules are broken and when incentives are perverted, and we're going to talk a lot about that, we no longer get any of the benefits of the free market, and what we have is a scam. And I think what we see by most of private equity is a scam. So this is the Toys R Us example, one of many, many previously successful, profitable companies that have effectively been destroyed by private equity. When private equity has effectively been a parasite that has taken the life out of these things. Des?
All of a sudden, they were just buried under interest payments, and their private equity owners were not helping them repay that money. And so the reason Toys R Us went out of business was not Amazon. It was the fact that they didn't have any money to compete with Amazon or anybody else because they were so buried under interest payments.
Interest payments from a loan that the private equity firm took out to buy them?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's kind of like.
So, again, this is a perversion of capitalism, because this idea of a private equity company having the money coming along, buying a company, and then doing what they want with it, selling it, etc., is based on the idea that the private equity company has the money in the first place. But the banking here is a scam, because what the company does is they take out a loan to buy that company, and then they stick the company with the loan. But if you didn't have the money to buy the company in the first place, let's continue.
How when if you're an investor flipping houses, you might borrow against the property that you're flipping, right?
Yes.
It's exactly like that.
Toys R Us, yes, it's a big box store, but it was an important part of a lot of communities, tax revenue wise, little things like sponsoring the local Little League team.
Well, it had been built from the ground up.
Yeah. So the idea that it was then driven out of business, again, not because of Amazon, but because what was good for the private equity firms in charge was not what was good for Toys R Us. When you end up, I think, with that split in incentives, I'm not making like an anti-capitalist argument here. I actually think it's a violation of free market capitalism to end up with this situation where a parent firm can make all of this money by driving the company it owns into the ground.
So, do we care? Like, who cares? Whatever, it's Toys R Us, it's one company, some consumer American, blah, blah, blah. Does it matter? Well, unfortunately, yes, because our economy is all connected. Does give me this one. So let's take a peek at this guy here.
Caused the next 2008 level economic collapse, but
Sorry about that.
no one is talking about it. And if this all feels familiar, it should. In 2008, it was risky mortgages. But this time, the exact same playbook is being used, but with entire companies, and people are only going to see it until it's too late. So to understand what they're doing, the best way is by showing you right here on my desk. So again, I'm private equity, and let's say I want to buy this company for $100 million. But I don't want to risk much of my own money. So what I'll do is I'll put in just $20 million of my own cash and borrow the other $80 million from the bank. But here's the risk. The company I'm buying is the one responsible for paying back that $80 million. Now that I own the company, I go back to the bank and say, can the company borrow even more? So now the company takes out a second loan, not to grow it, not to improve it, but to pay me. But the company has even more debt. So the bank holds a giant risky loan on its books. So the banks figure out a way to pass this risk to someone else. They take all these risky loans that are under multiple different companies and bundle them together into one big package to sell it to others. This is called a CLO. But you might be thinking, why would anyone want to buy loans from a bank? Because when companies pay back loans they're under, they also pay interest. But remember, since we're bundling different loans from different companies, there's going to be risk associated with it. So what they do is split that bundle into layers. The top layer gets labeled AAA safe, so it looks super low risk. The middle layer is called medium risk. That usually goes to insurance companies. And the bottom layer, yeah, that's the junk, sold to hedge funds hoping for big payouts. The private equity loads companies with debt, pulls cash out for themselves, then leaves the company to collapse. Exactly like they did with mortgages in 2008. Except this time it's entire companies and no one's talking about it until it's too late. So follow to better understand how money and power works. Private equity is about to call.
So, this is the issue in private equity, is that they're not incentivized for the long-term health of the company. So like, say your company owns the location they're in. So you got a private equity comes and buys your your widget company. Your company makes widgets. You own your building that you have your widget company in, and that real estate has value. Well, so one of the things private equity will do is they'll sell your real estate to a leasing company and then have you lease it back from them. That creates some cash flow. There's some instant money available that they can then say, some money out. And then, but what it's done to your company is it means that your company's cost of operation are higher. You have to pay rent that you didn't previously have to pay. Your assets are less. You have less to protect you if things go wrong. This is a classic example. It's not good for the company to do that, but it is good for the private equity that own them. Just keep an eye on this. Keep an eye out for all things private equity related, because this is people playing with money that they didn't have to earn. And that's always dangerous. Okay, we have another. Des, you're going to talk to us about this a little bit? Des had got into a story this week who brought it to my attention. What's going on with Kelly, Des?
So basically, essentially, R. Kelly, if you can pull up the article.
I got the article. Let me
so
throw
essentially
it.
R.
Which one
Kelly,
you want? This one or the other one?
The one that
With the USA Today one or the
other one.
Yeah, I get the other
so,
one. Okay.
essentially, R. Kelly got.
Gotta throw it up.
Oh yeah. Hold.
There you go.
So essentially, R. Kelly was given a near fatal amount of drugs, medication, at prison, and then, as a result, almost dies. And then, also, so that entirely itself is suspicious.
Because it looks like the prison would have been responsible.
Yes, the
effectively,
prison was
the people
was
giving out the
responsible for it.
meds.
Yeah, so that is suspicious.
So you can come up with an argument where that was an accident, right?
Yeah.
Somebody gave him 10 pills instead of 2 pills or whatever.
But
But-
the thing about that is that I think recently, before that, Diddy was he was mentioned in the Diddy trial. So that is suspicious.
Okay. So the Diddy trial's been a bit of a flop for a lot of us out here because we expected it to be a trial in which his connections to industry and intelligence would be let out. You know, that it'd be about the fact that he was drugging people and filming them doing compromising things. That hasn't been the focus of the trial. However, R. Kelly's name did come up, right?
Yeah, so it came up, which is suspicious that this happens right after that. And on top of that, if you bring up the article again, and on top of that, R. Kelly went to a judge to go ask if he could be put on confined in his home.
Yeah.
And they declined that, saying that he couldn't do that because they didn't want him to do that. So that's also suspicious that now they don't allow him to become, because R. Kelly said that he doesn't feel safe. He said he that was a murder plot. So he's like, "Yo, judge, can I go home? I don't feel safe in this confined spot.
Yeah.
Can I go home?" And then they're like, "Nah, fuck you, bro." Essentially.
So it's very interesting, and he was placed in solitary confinement against his will after they applied for this emergency motion. So it's some sketchy stuff going on. And again, prisons are controlled by government. We've seen what's happened when Epstein was in prison, and lots of other people, sketchy things happening. We know that American prisons, despite being the highest security thing that we have available, can't keep illegal drugs out, are full of sexual assaults, other assaults, incredible crime that happens within prisons. So I would not be at all surprised. And if I was R. Kelly, I'd be scared shitless too. I would hope I wouldn't be in R. Kelly's situation for other reasons, obviously.
So just for note for everyone, if
Yeah.
you see R. Kelly dying, you know exactly why.
So that's interesting. There's been a lot of talk along those lines lately. It's interesting how much more conspiratorial people are now. So like one of the things people have talked about with the Israel-Iran situation is like, if anything blows up in America, it's going to be Israel doing it as an excuse kind of thing. So it's interesting because that was never a piece of our conversation at any time before in American history that I know of. And now we don't assume that our government is on the level or being honest. So, okay, before we get into that, we got one more story, and I really want to focus on this one. So, Palantir. This is the thing that I don't want you to be distracted from. So, this week we had a piece of news that these tech companies, and again, this is the future. This is the new nuclear weapon. It's AI and it's information. It's the ability to control information. It's the ability to automatically sift through information. Remember, AI's power, and I'm not a big doomsdayer with AI. I think a lot of the intelligence part of AI is highly overstated, but from a surveillance standpoint, it's a game changer because we could put cameras everywhere we wanted before, but they all required another human being to be watching the camera. So if you put 15 cameras out on Main Street in your town to surveil people, you would need 15 people to watch the cameras, or at least one person to watch 15 cameras. It was very labor intensive. What we can do now, what we can do now with AI, and I say we, what they can do now with AI is have the AI go through all that footage and then say, oh, here's the person you're looking for, here's the action you're looking for, etc. The ability for surveillance to control our lives in a very 1984-ish way has never been there before, and it is currently there. The technology currently exists for AI to basically monitor everything, and that is the end of the Fourth Amendment. That's the end of our privacy and freedom from search. Really concerning stuff. It was concerning before the Trump election. It was concerning from the Biden and the Harris administration. They were not great on this issue, and it was those of us who were skeptical of the Trump administration. This was our number one issue. Our number one thing was we were worried that in order or justified by going after illegal immigrants, that we would get this surveillance state. And so far, that paranoia is working out. So executives from Meta, OpenAI, and Palantir will be sworn in Friday as Army Reserve officers. OpenAI signed a $200 million defense contract this week. Trump is pushing for $1 trillion defense budget. So these tech guys, and remember, we saw them all at Trump's inauguration. Not just Elon Musk, but Alex Karp, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, all the big tech people. These people who control all of the information. Remember that Elon Musk, as part of his role in Doge, which was a complete failure, got a hold of a whole bunch of information as part of this. All of this stuff is getting fed in to their AI. And that's how AI works. It goes based on the more information you get. Remember that we were told back 20 years ago the reason that we couldn't have Napster and have free music is because we didn't have the rights to that information. But all that same information, they're pouring into AI right now. Everything they can put into it. So if you haven't heard about Palantir in any week over the next few months, go Google Palantir and see where they're at in the news and see what's going on. Because if you are an American and you're looking for something to be scared of, that is where I'm at. I think those are these tech giants having control over your data and knowing where you are at all times is the most clear open door to tyranny that we're ever going to see. With all that said, I think I've covered everything. Let's talk one quick thing about immigration I want to talk about, because this is every time we get these emotional issues, people become fucking morons. And I'm sorry, the level of the discussion around immigration in this country is moronic. No one is able to have a thoughtful, not no one, almost nobody, certainly no one in the mainstream is having a thoughtful conversation about this. There are multiple issues here. So let's talk about immigration, because there's three things that need to happen, or three steps in this sort of formation of a problem. So thing one is illegal immigration a problem? That's thing one. I've been arguing, and certainly was during the Biden administration, that yes, it is a problem. Why is it a problem? Not some they took our jobs kind of xenophobic bullshit. It's a problem, one, because of the humanitarian crisis of people traveling the way that they are, with being basically human trafficked, the smuggling involved, all of that ugliness, the dangerousness of the path of getting people illegally into this country is a problem. The second thing, the border was left fairly overtly open. If we're going to have a border, that's a different discussion, by the way, which I'm willing to have. But if we're going to have a border, it should be closed. Otherwise, there's no point of it. So, and then, are the illegal immigrants here causing a problem for Americans? I think that's a more debatable thing. I'd say certainly relatively to other forces in this country, there are 100 things I can tell you that are more of a threat to you than illegal immigrants. However, mass immigration, as a rule, is not good for culture. It's not great for the people immigrating, and it's not great for the people, for the places they're immigrating to. Slower immigration, I am a huge fan of. I think it's how you get diversity and culture and all sorts of things. But mass immigration, caused by war, economic disaster, etc., is generally has lots of negative consequences. But so, is there a problem? Let's say yes, immigration is a problem. Again, you may disagree with that, but I don't think I don't think it makes you a racist or a horrible person to say yes, illegal immigration, undocumented workers are generally not a good thing based on the fact that it's even just the fact that it's a subculture, not a subculture, a non-official way of doing it. So thing one. Thing two, should we address it? Just because there's a problem, it doesn't mean you should always solve the problem. Some problems are not worth solving, right? Some problems are too big or too overwhelming that the amount of work you have to put in to solve it is not worth it. Some problems are not worth solving because they're not that big of a problem. But let's say, yes, we do need to solve the illegal immigration problem. Let's say we agree with that idea. There are too many people in this country undocumented. Question three, how should we solve this problem? How should we address this problem? Is a different issue. So I can first agree that illegal immigration is a problem. I can agree that it's a problem that we should solve, that we should get people who are not in this country legally out. You can agree with those things. But then I can also not agree that the way we should do it is by violating people's rights. It's not a yay illegals, get rid of illegals. Yay undocumented, get rid of undocumented. Language either way. That's not what we're talking about here. That's not a reasonable, intelligent discussion. You're not going to find reasonable, intelligent people on both sides of that argument because that's not a real argument. The question is can we solve this problem in a way that is consistent with our laws and values? And I think the answer is a resounding yes. It doesn't mean you can completely eliminate everybody who's here in this country illegally, but you can certainly address the problem without violating people's rights. And those are different issues. And we need to start having more intelligent conversations about this. Because every time I point out to someone who's pro deportation that we can deport people in a way that's legal and consistent with our values and respects their humanity. Oh, yeah, you must love you don't get anything. You hate America. You love legal. There's no intelligence in this conversation, and we need to do better. That's true about every issue, by the way. There's literally every single issue. We have these old, hackneyed, worn out, stupid arguments, and we need to move beyond it. All right. All that said, let's get to the big issue of the week, which is unfortunately, God, I'm sweating like a pig, which is unfortunately, we are now involved in a war. Since last night, yesterday evening, we are now officially involved in a war. Let's talk about how we got in that situation. So, Israel, one of our closest allies, has been exchanging fire with Iran. It started, and do you want to give me my screen real quick? I got this USA Today, Israel, Iran timeline. Because even a very Western, non-controversial thing like USA Today will still recognize that on June 14th, this all began when the Israeli military struck an unspecified underground weapons facility. So this began with an Israeli attack. Now, the word that's used in the media to describe this attack is preemptive. Preemptive is a horseshit fucking word, right? If me and Danny are at the club and I think he's looking at my girl and I punch him in the fucking face, I'm the one who started this shit, right? I can't be like, I preemptively punched him because I thought he was going to punch me. He was like flexing and looking tough over there. So like I had to go and preemptively punch him so that, and then, so everything that happened is Danny's fault because he's the one who punched me. I mean, I preemptively punched him, but I wasn't, I was just what else was I supposed to do? I was What a fucking load of horseshit. Good luck, by the way, if you punch someone or you start a physical altercation, good luck going to court and arguing with the judge that what you were doing, it was preemptive. I was just preemptively doing it. It's horseshit. If you strike first, you are the aggressor. Period. So Israel, in this situation, was the aggressor. They attacked Iran's nuclear facilities. The whole pretext for this is that Iran is is trying to build a nuclear weapon. This has been a story since way back in the Obama administration. There was a nuclear deal that Obama had signed with them that basically allowed them to continue enriching uranium for nuclear energy. But not to do it for the purposes of a nuclear bomb. They were letting all these inspectors in, Trump canceled that deal in his first term. The Biden administration didn't do anything about it when they had an opportunity to deal with it. So we go into the Trump second term with no deal between with Iran and the outside world around the nuclear program. Keep in mind, there's only one country in the history of the world to ever use nuclear weapons. It was us. We blew up civilians with it, Christians, all women, children, the whole nine. So that's thing one. Thing two, Israel has a nuclear weapon. They won't admit it because the way they got it was by stealing nuclear secrets from the United States. But they have a nuclear weapon. Everyone understands this. They have been preemptively attacking pretty much every other country in the Middle East in the last 30 or 40 years. So it seems the initial premise of why it's okay for Israel to attack Iran and then why it's okay for us to attack Iran is that they can't have a nuclear weapon. Trump has come out and said this was, no, we cannot have a world in which Iran has a nuclear weapon. Why? Again, I'm not advocating for it. I'm not pro-nuclear weapon. But if the people who have been threatening them repeatedly have nuclear weapons, if the people responsible for, let's see, how many countries did we invade in the last 25 years? Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Iraq, Somalia. I could fucking go on. So if we, the constant invaders who've destroyed about a third of the countries in the world in the last 100 years, can have all these nuclear weapons, I'm not sure why Iran is not allowed to have one. Again, I'm not pro an Iranian nuclear weapon. I'm just saying I don't see a logical argument from our perspective. I don't see a moral high ground for America and certainly not Israel on this issue. So they exchange attacks back and forth. Iran has now effectively defeated the Iron Dome over Israel. It's now it has shown that it has an ability to penetrate and get missiles into Israel. They've attacked a number of military sites in Israel very effectively with their hypersonic missiles. So that's what's been going on, and that's where we were at until yesterday. So what do I want to? Let's talk about. So many of us, the big news up until that, and we'll follow up on this a little bit more. Was the Tucker Carlson had an interview with Ted Cruz this week, and the socials have been popping off about it because Ted Cruz is an advocate of the war with Iran. Ted Cruz is highly supportive of Israel. He gets $2 million got $2 million from AIPAC. He's got lots of financial reasons to be loyal to Israel, and he's arguing for this war in Iran. He's arguing for us getting involved. Tucker Carlson, who previously was an advocate for the Iraq war and since then has come out with a fairly admirable mea culpa, saying how wrong he was and how embarrassed and ashamed he is of supporting that war, which anyone who supported the Iraq war should feel embarrassed and ashamed, at least. Here we are again, and Tucker sees the exact same rhetoric that we got pre-Iraq war in pre-Iran war times, and he had an opportunity to interview Ted Cruz. There's been a few clips that have really gone viral about this. So a couple about Tucker, like him or not, he and I have very different politics, but there's some ways in which I find him an admirable journalist and someone who asks tough questions, is a very smart guy about world history and world facts, and he sort of quizzed Ted Cruz on the population and the makeup of Iran, and Ted Cruz looked like a fucking idiot because he had no idea and then tried to make excuses for having no idea. So we've seen that clip around. I'm sure you've seen that one. And then Ted Cruz came back to this. Well, Iran is trying to kill Donald J. Trump. They were trying to assassinate him, and that's Ted Cruz's argument for that. Again, pretty ridiculous. Tucker did a great job of pointing out the issue that most Americans care about, and certainly every single MAGA voter that I spoke to over this whole election cycle, is that Americans don't want our money and our focus and our energy 5, 6, 7, 8,000 miles away anymore. We see our own cities crumbling. We see homelessness. We see, Tucker had a great line, Americans are buying groceries on credit. And that's true. We have better things to do with our time and resources and energy than go policing the world, even assuming we're any good at it, which we're fucking not. We need to focus our energy. That's make America great again was MAGA. And we're going to get in a minute why I think MAGA is over officially. So I focused on a different line from the Cruz interview, and I think this is it reveals how simplistic and childish the neocon rhetoric is. So Des, if you give me this real quick. This is why Israel is a great ally to us. Because for many Americans, we're not seeing what we're getting out of this $3 billion a year we give to them and always coming to their defense. And here's what Ted Cruz says.
The enemies of Israel, the people who hate Israel, they all hate us. It's almost a perfect overlap. And so if we tried to recreate, if we're just trying to defend America, we tried to recreate the national security benefits of our alliance with Israel, it would cost, I don't know, $30 billion, $300 billion.
So his argument for why we need to go to war, why we need to risk the lives of American servicemen and women, is that the same people that hate Israel also hate us. Bro, what the fuck is wrong with you? That is some locker room, lunch table fucking horseshit. Well, the same people that hate them hate us. So we're on. That's moronic. Do you really think that's what's going on around the world? Is it just people hate America and Israel, and that's why everything has happened? It's why Hamas exists, just because they hate us, and Iran is fighting back because they hate us, and China, they hate us, and Putin, Get the fuck out of here with that third grade fucking horseshit. That's moronic. It's moronic. And the fact Ted Cruz is not a stupid man. None of these politicians, they're not stupid people. But the fact that they sound so stupid shows how wrong they are. There's a reason they sound this stupid. Because it's a moronic idea. It's a third grade understanding of the way the world works. There's good guys and there's bad guys. And the bad guys hate you because of your freedom. And the good guys, the bad guys hate them too. That's how you know it's a good guy, because the bad guys hate them. It's just fucking stupid. And people who think like this, I'm sorry, you don't belong in the discussion. You're not smart enough. If Ted Cruz's argument appealed to you, if you're like, yeah, that's it, he really gets it, get the fuck out of here. Go play video games. No offense to people who play video games, but go fucking play video games. You're not smart enough for this discussion if you really buy that argument. And I'm sorry, that's mean and hateful and exclusive and probably ableist or something, but I don't care. Fuck yourself. You're risking world war. Whew. It's a hot sweaty day today, boys and girls. Okay, so Ted Cruz also decided to get into a little theology here and explain that as his reason for supporting Israel. And again, this is always a great way to show the hypocrites because, Iran's theocracy is just so terrible. They think God's on their side and they're crazy people. Except if you talk to the people who support Israel, it's pretty much the exact same rhetoric. We're the chosen people, and then the Christian Zionists, well, it's God's plan and temples and second temples and all this silliness. But luckily, we have intelligent Christians out there too who can expose these morons and liars. So let's hear. I got two exposés of stupid Ted Cruz. So go ahead.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible: those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
Well, you may have been taught that in Sunday school, but you weren't taught it from the Bible. It's nowhere in the Bible.
Those who bless the government of Israel? Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel.
No, it never says that.
Where is that?
Like I said, it's nowhere.
I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone...
The phone's not going to help you here because it's not in Scripture.
It's in Genesis.
Oh my God. Genesis 12, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who treat you with contempt, and all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you. Who is God saying this to? The nation of Israel? No. Abram. The reason why the people of the earth are going to be blessed through Abraham is because of the covenant that God makes with Abraham, and his children, his offspring, are the children of promise.
Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel.
Are we making foreign policy off of a misunderstanding of Scripture that could have just simply been resolved by, I don't know, opening...
Oh, what happened? Do we die? Oh, we got some internet interruption here. Here I got another one that's just as good.
Bible?
Actually. Oh.
That's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about. The nation of Israel, yes. And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called
My computer's dying.
Israel.
So
He's
again,
talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel. Is the nation
They're
the
the
descendants of
descendants
Abraham to in Genesis? Is that the same as the country run
here,
by Benjamin
Dad,
Netanyahu?
you want to give me
right
that?
now?
Just give me back. There we go.
Please open your Bible.
So, sorry, my computer is having a tough time existing right now. Again, Tucker Carlson does a great job of pointing out how unbelievably fucking stupid this is. You really think the 4,000 years ago, that God of that Bible 4,000 years ago was like, yeah, make sure in 2025 you support this guy Benjamin Netanyahu and what his government is doing. Like, again, is this really the level of discussion we're having? Is this really how unintelligent we are? Like, we can't do better than this? Let's hear, let's see if this one's going to work. Oh, my computer is... I don't think I've restarted this computer in an extended period of time, which is probably why it's not happy with me. So, I don't have to do this. Stop! My computer is totally frozen. So let me see if I can skip to some of the other stuff, Sans video, and we can go from there because I am, yes. Let me do that real quick. Sorry, guys, for the quick interruption of technical difficulties. I'm going to restart my computer, and hopefully we'll get some good things happening. And I'm just going to pull up my notes real quick. Elsewhere. Okay, so Tucker does a nice job effectively destroying the ridiculousness of this argument, and you can find lots of other fairly obvious takedowns of this ridiculous argument online. Also, why are we having this discussion? I don't know if any of you guys remember this idea called separation of church and state, but this is not what America is about. And again, this is the same thing we run into with the immigration thing. When we're talking about showing up with masks on and black vans and ripping people off the street and not giving them their basic rights of due process. This is not what America's about. It's not about bombing people based on one of your politicians' religions. It's not about pulling people off the streets. It's about recognizing fundamental human rights. And if it's not about that, then it's about nothing. Okay, so let's go. I got my phone version of my notes real quick. Sorry, while my computer shits itself. So there is some pushback against this. We do have Thomas Massey has been firmly anti this war from prior to it starting. So one of the things that our founding fathers recognized is that we shouldn't have kings declaring wars. Unfortunately, the No Kings protests seem to not be real strong on this anti-war thing because it seemed like it was largely supported by the Democratic Party, which is not largely anti-war. However, there are anti-war members like Ro Khanna, who is sponsoring this bill with Thomas Massie, and it reaffirms that in the Constitution, it fairly clearly says only Congress has the power to declare war. Our representatives are the ones who are supposed to declare war. The president can respond in time. If we're attacked, the president has the power to respond. But what Trump did was not responding to an attack on America. And lots of legal scholars have said it's fairly obviously an act of war. It acts as a declaration of war, which Trump does not have the constitutional power to do. So that's something that should be certainly concerning to anyone who cares about what it means to be an American, because it means that we have a constitution that tells our leaders how they can and cannot behave. It doesn't restrict us as citizens. It restricts our leaders and the powers that they're allowed to exercise. So I was trying to get my computer back, but it looks like we're not going to have that in time. So I'm just going to have to fly off the cuff. So what's happened since the 14th, when Israel started this war, is there's been lots of back and forth. The Iranians have shown pretty well on the technology side. They have done they've been able to penetrate the Iron Dome, and it doesn't look like Israel had any ability to affect their nuclear sites. Israel does not have the level of bombs required to do damage to their nuclear sites. So after starting the war, Netanyahu came to Trump and said, hey, you guys got to come back me up. You got to come help me out. He basically demanded that the U.S. join him in war. This war is tremendously unpopular among the American people. And very specifically, this war is unpopular from the Trump base. MAGA is generally not a pro-war unit. Again, every single person I talked to that was a MAGA person, that was a Trump voter, was voting against war. They were voting against the war in Ukraine. They were voting against continued involvement. And they thought Trump was the person who was going to get them that. If you look at some of the polls that have been put up, Charlie Kirk recently put up a poll. Charlie Kirk is a MAGA conservative. His followers are Republicans, and 80+% of them said they did not want a war in Iraq. These are not Green Party liberal lefties. These are the core of MAGA. And MAGA, again, make America great again. It was not about continuing to support Israel. It's not about foreign wars. And in doing this, Trump officially last night launched military attacks against these, I believe there are 4 nuclear sites. One of which, had it been a successful attack, could have caused a massive release of nuclear material, which could have been hugely dangerous to Iran and the entire region. Fortunately, it doesn't look like that attack was successful. It looks like the underground at Fordham, I think is the name of it's Ford something or other. The name of the base, because my computer's not working, I don't have that handy. In the nuclear site, it doesn't look like they were able to penetrate this underground site. It looks like it was unsuccessful. And in launching a war against Iran that nobody wanted, nobody who wasn't about to profit off of it, I think Trump just completely sold out his base. Now, there were lots of things that Trump had done to his base along the way that people were pretty mad about. So not releasing the Epstein files, a lot of BS around the JFK files, some the Palantir stuff, putting a lot of power in these tech giants. Some of his appointments of neocons like Marco Rubio. There were lots of little things that Trump did that was kind of a spitting in the face of MAGA. Lots of little things along the way. And he hasn't done a whole lot to help his base. The only thing that Trump has done that large numbers of Trump voters like is the deportation stuff. That is one thing, so I'm not a Trump voter, but that is fairly popular. This war is not. And I think what we see now is, I think MAGA's done. MAGA's over. Because Trump doesn't fucking care about MAGA. It's really, really clear Trump is not MAGA. He is not America first. He's not making America great. It's very clear that's not happening. And that's not a lefty view. I think any good conservative should say, yeah, this guy's not our guy. He's not focusing on America. He's not worried about the homeless people in the street. He's not worried about your price of gas. He's not worried about your price of groceries. Doesn't seem to care about that one bit. Certainly hasn't done any actions that show that he cares about it. That's a concern. And if you think a war in the Middle East is going to help any of those things, you're in for a really rough surprise. What happens when we go to war in the Middle East? What happens when Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz? What happens then? What happens to oil prices? You're talking about we could be seeing $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 gallon gas in the next year. That's what could be happening. What happens when we can't move? Remember during COVID when ships weren't moving efficiently around the world? Remember what a disaster that was for the economy? What do you think a war does? Iran is not Iraq. Iraq had 20 million people and not much of a military and not a ton of international support. Iran has 92 million people. Iran is backed by China, who gets 90% of their oil from Iran. Iran is backed by Russia, who has the most nuclear weapons in the world. Iran has hypersonic missile technology that we don't have. Iran is not Iraq. And guess what? We lost that war. Is America stronger now than it was 25 years ago? I don't see a single shred of evidence that would say that's true. Not only is this war immoral, not only is it a complete selling out of all things that could possibly have been good about MAGA, not only does it put all of us at risk from World War III, but we might fucking lose. We could put every little bit into this war and lose. And I worry that the people who are running this country know that. I think they know damn well, because I think they're treating America the same way a private equity firm treated Toys R Us. They know they can get lots of money out. They can extract a lot of wealth while this ship sinks. We can do better than this, and we should do better than this. All that said, we will be back in 5 minutes for our Doing Better show, full show, our interview with Catherine Tarnowski of, I'm blanking out, of Northeast Therapy and Service Dogs. Thank you. And we're going to talk with her about the work that they're doing. Really excited for that. A much more positive, smiley, growth-oriented topic, and I'm really excited for it. We'll see you guys back here in about 5 minutes. Thank you for joining us on the Doing Better show, Sunday Sanity Check. My name is Oliver Ox. I'm holding